Welcome to your daily writing habit. If you are writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing a book but you need some help getting it done, you are in the right place. Good morning, everyone. I am your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., like that stuff we write with. Each day, I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 20 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that three things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they can even turn someone who barely sees themselves as a writer into a published book author. Those three things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. And happy Writer Wednesday, everyone, here today on the show to talk about the words and the wonder involved in being a creative writer is author of the new Writing Fundamentals book, Words and Wonder, a guide to becoming a creative writer and the author. And our guest today is Dana Greff. Here's more about Dana. Dana Greff is the author of Alterations, winner of the Rain Arroyo chapbook series. She has taught creative writing at the University of Texas at Austin and the University of Miami, Books and Books, the Loft Literary Center, Austin Bat Cave, writing workshops, and Writers.com. She is the recipient of a 2021 Pushcart Prize nomination and was selected as a finalist for the 2021 Key West Literary Seminar's Marianne Russo Award for her novel in progress, Everyday Mysticism. Her work has appeared in Islandia Journal, Cosmonauts Avenue, Pank, Origins Journal, and Gulfstream Magazine, among others. Her first nonfiction book, Words and Wonder, a guide to becoming a creative writer, drops on March 1st of this year. And find out more at danadegreff.com. I will, of course, put the link in the show notes, as I always do. And welcome, Dana. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, that's such an impressive bio. I think I got all the words. Well, words a lot here on your daily writing habit. So you can probably tell. I love that title, by the way, Words and Wonder. It just sparks my imagination. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So speaking of words and books, so quite obviously a writing fundamentals expert in your own right, we know after reading that bio. Which books on writing have influenced you the most over the years?
I would say probably the first one that comes to mind and one that I reference often would be Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. Mm-hmm. I think that was the first time that I read another writer who said that it was okay to write crappy first drafts. I'm not sure if I can say the actual word, but so just reading that alone, it's something that I teach over and over again, and just to sort of hold on to and embrace the mess. That really helped me as a writer, and it helps a lot of my students as well. So that's definitely the first one that I return to often. And then the other book, it's more recent. I believe it came out in 2020, and that is Craft in the Real World, and that's by Matthew Salesses. That, sort of discussing the workshop model and redefining craft terms. That was a very, also I would say, pivotal book for me, much more recent, but both of those are very important in my writing life and also teaching life.
Awesome. And yeah, I think I've translated crappy first drafts into like future gems, like diamonds in the rough, like pieces of coal that we're gonna shine. But I like embrace the mess too. Yeah, that's one of my favorite messages too. Mm-hmm. Especially when everybody's worried about their, like when you work with your students, probably similar to when I'm working with my book coaching clients, and people are so concerned about getting that perfect first draft. And I have to remind them, and I'm sure you do remind your students, that's not the point of a first draft.
Yes. And it can be very debilitating. I mean, I also like to tell people, and everything I tell my students are things that I tell myself. It's not like I've gotten over this desire to have everything be great, but that perfection really doesn't exist. So that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be more, write the best book that you possibly can. And that for me has been just it helps me be creative and to try new things and honestly have a lot more fun with the writing process.
Yes, and we forget that sometimes. I try to remind everybody here on the show a lot. Fun, must have fun. Remember the fun. Yes, there's obstacles and challenges and struggle bus days in the writing cave, but remember the fun. And I love that you and I have in common where it sounds like you agree with something else I say on the show a lot where, I teach the things that I'm harping on here are the things that I'm basically reminding myself of. So I'm not coming from a place of perfection. I'm saying, if I'm harping about it here, that means I need to remind myself a lot. So I'm just kind of passing that along to you all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So beyond books and, writing, reading about writing, where else do you draw inspiration for your writing and teaching and just creativity in general?
Well, I write about this in Words and Wonder, but one of the places that I return to again and again would have to be nature. Being outside is really important to me, and just getting away from the screen is very key for creativity, for me getting ideas. And a lot of times when I'm stuck or I'm not sure what to do next or I'm frustrated, I literally leave the writing room or wherever I'm at and take a walk. And that's not something I invented. Writers have been doing that for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. But there's something about getting, chemically, you're getting the oxygen and you're releasing serotonin, but it's just nice to be outside and to work through maybe a plot point or something's happening with a character, or you just are like I said, frustrated. To get away and to get outside is super important for me in terms of inspiration. Outside of that, I definitely am a big art lover, so that's, music, movement. I love to dance. I do yoga as well, the fine arts, movies. I get a lot of inspiration from, the visual arts and podcasts. I love podcasts.
Well, that's very good to know. And that's, I think, how you found me, which is great.
Yes,
and I know you mentioned you live in Austin, so no shortage of great fine arts there.
Yeah, no, it's been really great for my inspiration so far.
That's awesome. And so, Words and Wonder, the book. So how did this come about, and what was your main why? I'm really obsessed with the word why on this show, because I'm sure you know this as a teacher as well. Especially when you're on the struggle bus and going through those hard times writing your book. I find that the why, like if you have a strong enough why, the reason that you're writing it can sometimes get you through that. So I'm always curious to find out what people's why is behind their books.
Well, as someone who taught for several years, there were a lot of questions that I would get again and again from mostly emerging writers, but not always. And some of those questions included, how do I find time to write? How do I find inspiration? How do I get published? Things like that. And so I would often talk about it in the classroom, and I started taking notes, preparing for seminars or lectures or workshops. And as I was doing my research, I just came across these questions again and again, and collecting answers from other writers, and then thinking about the questions myself. And after I did that for a couple of years, I realized that I was writing a book without even realizing it. And so the idea or the why is kind of in part to answer these questions in my own way, with my own spin and perspective, but also to help either emerging writers or established writers who are stuck, or anyone who's creative really wants to try something new, to help them on the path of becoming a writer, or perhaps becoming a more, I don't want to say a better creative writer, but perhaps a more in tune creative writer, or someone who's just understands a little bit better or knows how to better tap into their creativity. So all of that is the why. That's kind of a long way to put it.
Oh, that's awesome. And you also covered, who the book is for, the emerging writers, established writers. So that was a really great description of who should read your book as well. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And there were two specific topics that I understand you cover in your book that caught my attention. How to deal with rejection and what you call open doors. Let's start with dealing with rejection. What is your best personal dealing with rejection story, or like how do you deal with it? Because I know, like for me, like back, I remember when I was an aspiring screenwriter, I would actually kind of like paper the walls of my shitty, crappy little apartment in LA with rejection letters from agents and producers. I was just kind of like reminding myself, like, you're doing it, you're putting yourself out there, you're trying. It's a weird kind of thing to wallpaper your walls with, but I don't know if you have any kind of like really cool, dealing with rejection personal stories.
I don't know how cool they are, but I definitely I've figured out how to, in my own way, how to deal with it. So the first thing, I mean, I have had so many rejections in my writing life that I lost count. I got to a point with, and this is before Submittable. I mean, if you're on Submittable, you can literally count how many times people have said no to you. But before Submittable, when I was sending out work via snail mail and things like that, I would normally just throw them away. Like, I didn't want them around me. It just made me upset. But the more that I did it, it's kind of like a breakup. Like, just because you've gone through several doesn't mean it's not going to hurt when it happens. But you at least understand that, when someone breaks up with you, it's usually not just about you. So realizing that rejections, kind of taking a step back, first feeling my feelings, I could be sad, I could be angry, I could be disappointed, but then also, reminding myself that a lot of times the reason we get rejected is not because our writing isn't good, or even not that our writing isn't great. It might be because for example, they just published, I'm going to reference a rejection that I got with my first novel, which centered around actors who were working on a film. I got rejected from an editor at a publishing house who really liked my book, but said that they had just published a book that was also about a film. So that was a rejection that was like, it almost harder because you get a bunch of compliments, but the answer is still no. So to remind myself that those things are out of my hands. I can't control who they already published, and then I can't control people's taste. So if they don't like my writing, I can't do anything about that. And I remind myself too that I read plenty of books that I don't like. So it's just not just, but it's a matter of perseverance. And then also what helps me is, a lot of ice cream and a lot of pizza and doing something nice for myself when I do get the rejection, especially if it's, something that I really wanted. I let myself be in that moment and feel the pain, and then remind myself that I don't have to do this, but I want to. So eventually you have to just keep trying.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I really love that analogy of a breakup, because that also speaks to just the quantity and the almost just like the frequency and the normalcy of rejection. I mean, if you think about it, breakups are happening in relationships every single day all around the world. Well, in author world, someone is getting a rejection letter, like a writer or an author, whatever, every single day. So that's an important thing to remember too, is because it's so easy to just be like, I'm the only person in the world being rejected right now. It's like, no, there's a lot of people opening rejection letters and emails and, all the other different ways that we can all be rejected these days. There's a lot of other authors simultaneously being rejected in the same moment as you are. You're not alone. That's why I'm another supporter of like just having a community of authors. Like I have for instance, my Inc. authors group on Facebook, because I really encourage authors to just connect to that community so that you remember, no, you're not the only one going through this, whether it's being rejected or kind of the horrors of the editing process or the frustrations of the writing process. Every single part of being an author is being experienced by countless other people. So that's why I always, reinforce just, find the other authors so you remember that you're not alone.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with that. Like writing despite popular belief, it's not done alone. You need to have your supporters and the other writers and your readers and your editors and the person that you can just, complain to and have, support you when you're feeling low.
Absolutely. So the other topic that caught my eye, the open doors, and that was really neat because it's a phrase that you use to describe writing prompts. So I'd love to hear,
Yes.
A story or an example of why you've decided to call writing prompts doors.
Yes, so it actually I was inspired by Rebecca Solnit, and she, in one of her books, she talks about the job of the artist being opening doors and inviting in the unknown, basically. So I was thinking about that concept and thinking about that in terms of writing, that we can't, instead of prompts, for me, prompts sort of makes me think of something that's rather closed and can actually, or at least with my students, a lot of times it made them freeze up, and it was too much structure or too many limits, and they didn't know how to go from there. So I started to challenge myself to write prompts that were more like doors. So more invitations, more leaning into the unknown and not being intimidated by the unknown or the mystery, but actually being excited by that. So that's why I now call prompts doors, and I try to bring in, inspiration from other art mediums. Like I said, I use a lot of music, sometimes film, sometimes images, and it's allowed me to be more playful as a teacher. And then a lot of times I do I write with the doors as well, and have come up with some interesting scenes, characters, ideas, and that's where that started.
That's awesome. I might call them doors from now on, open doors on my Saturday here on the show. I usually do writing prompts, or I call them writing assignments, or, I kind of switch it up. I'm just going to tell my listeners, there's a really, really fun and interesting one coming up this Saturday. So from a very unexpected source. So you'll definitely want to listen to it, but I might quote you from
Very
now
cool.
on. You don't happen to have do you have like a website or a blog or anything where you have doors, the open doors that you offer to people?
I do. Yes.
Oh.
I have a website. It's my name, DanaDeGreff.com. And through that, you can actually sign up for my free newsletter. And so every Wednesday, I send out a new door. So I call them DeGreff doors, and I try to, I think about a lot of times what's inspiring me, and offer these free prompts to writers or anyone really who likes reading or wants to try something new. So you can definitely sign up for the newsletter through my website.
That's awesome. So hear that, everybody? Now you have so many options of awesome things to get from Dana and I every week. So you get my Writer Wednesday email. So on Wednesdays is particularly exciting. You get my Writer Wednesday email, and you get the DeGreff doors. And then on Saturday, you can get my doors, which I'll come up with my own way of saying it, my writing prompts on Saturdays. So, between the two of us, we're giving people a very creative-filled week.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of resources. So it's, it'd be a lot of cool ideas and community and everything else that you need as a writer.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. That's the community part that I love so much. So awesome. And of course, because the theme of this show is habits, I need to ask, what are your best and most favoritist writing and creative habits in your life?
That's a good question. So, let's see. I guess it's a writing habit, but also I'd say a life habit is meditating. And that's something I only started doing a few years ago, but what I usually do, if it's a good day, it doesn't always happen, but I will turn on the coffee, get it going, I will meditate, and then I will journal for a little bit, and then I'll get into whatever project I'm working, whether that's, working on, whether that's the novel, or I'm also working on a memoir. And that habit really just helps me get in the creative zone, into that flow state that we're all trying to hold on to and find so desperately. It allows me to just start with a nice, relatively clear mind, compared to how I am at the end of the day, which is very scattered. And that's been really important to me, for sure. I often, let's see, sometimes I light a candle just to make it feel more special, more of like a sacred time for me to create. And yeah, the walks, I guess that's part of my habit too. Is I often take a walk, when I need a break, or after a long writing session too.
Awesome. I love those habits. I really, yeah, I was thinking my idea of meditation is a little different. I like to spin around in my aerial hoop blindfolded. So like,
Oh, okay.
that's my variation
Very
of meditation. Cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't get dizzy, unlike like you. It's kind of interesting. Even like much more experienced aerialists than myself, they eat the ginger candies, and they just eat like large chunks of ginger to not get nauseous or dizzy. And there's something in my brain that really likes to spin, and I don't get dizzy. It's very strange, but that's my meditation.
That's cool. I definitely have not heard that before.
Oh yeah. See, this is why it's so great to meet our fellow authors and fellow creatives and writers, because you never know what weird thing you're going to find out about someone else. It's like, wow, and we know we're all like natural collectors of stories, right? So this is all just like, oh, I learned something cool about another human today. Yay.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I might have to give that a try.
Oh yeah. So that's super fun. And I think we've covered everything, unless you had anything else you wanted to share. You talked about, when we were offline, your upcoming launch, or you want to give information about that?
Sure, yes. So my book is coming out the 29th, which is Tuesday, and I'll be in conversation with a local organization that's called Future Front Texas. So we're going to be talking about the book, but also just creativity, writing in general, and that's going to be hosted by Book People, which, if you are in Austin or Texas, you probably are familiar with that indie bookstore, but it's a virtual event. So anyone, anywhere in the whole world can log on and listen in, and you can sign up either on my website, which is danadegreff.com, or you can go to Book People, and they have the registration as well, and it's free. So would be great if people could be part of that. And online as well on the website, you can buy my book, and there's still time. If you do that, I will sign it and write a little note of encouragement and send it your way.
That sounds great. And thank you so much for being on the show today, Dana. This was a great conversation.
Yes, thank you for having me, Christine. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And of course, thank all of you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And as I mentioned a few times today, please drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook. Get that support you need. You're not in it alone in any part of the author life process. Really great people there, generous community of authors. And it's getting more active by the day. I'm telling you, I can barely keep up with the conversations in there. Everybody's like so active. I swear there's like 3 different accountability relationships in there and partnerships, and people are just encouraging. Oh. It's just truly That's great amazing. Community. Yeah, thank you. So Inc. Authors on Facebook, and it's because of the members. The members make it the awesome thing that it is. So I'm just very grateful to kind of be the facilitator. So I will put that link in the show notes along with the link to Dana's website. And until tomorrow, everyone, happy writing.